Hamadak yapi kola iyuha ichichab chantewa nape choose papilo ani buju. I want to say good morning and good day to all of our listeners out there in AM 950 land. Again, this is Chase Iron Eyes. This is the Native American Patriot Talk. It's available wherever you podcast. This is the 5th episode, season 1, episode 5. It's powered by Native Roots Radio and our guys in the studio at AM 950. Dial in your radios and follow us on social media. Look for Native Roots Radio. Look for Lakota Law. Look for AM 950. You'll be able to find all of the wonderful programs that are offered through each of those platforms. And I want to start today with the war on the Pope, and then we'll get to some of the local Minnesota-based highly significant happenings that have occurred since our last show. And again, you can find this show every first and third Tuesday live on AM 950 at 6 o'clock Central. But since we last met, there's been a war on Pope Leo. And if you're not aware, or maybe you don't pay attention, I pay close attention to the Pope because I used to work for an organization, a faith-based, interfaith, interdisciplinary organization known as the Romero Institute, named after Jesuit Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was assassinated in El Salvador back during the Iran-Contra times. And so we've done a lot of research and kept up with not Pope Leo, but with Pope Francis, who recently made his journey and was replaced by Pope Leo. And Pope Leo is the first American-born Pope in history. And so if you recall, if you've seen the news updates, we have a situation where Pete Hegseth, who I pejoratively refer to as Pete Drunk Breath, and President Trump have taken measures, have taken steps to threaten the Pope. They've called in somebody, Nuncia. They've called in somebody from the Pope's organization, from the Vatican. And I'm no expert on how the entire Vatican is organized, but we're in a situation where you have a Native American person who subscribes to pre-contact worldviews, agreeing with the Pope. So you know that things are not normal in our country, in the world. I know that our listeners are on pins and needles based on everything that this president says in relation to the war in Iran that we are instigating. Or it's arguable what actually is happening, but from the objective and reasonable standpoint, Israel and our country, this is supposed to be America first. We're supposed to take care of our country first, not do the bidding of a foreign country, a country that has a very powerful, controlling, domineering lobby in our country, in the United States of America. It's illegal to support Israel critical initiatives like boycott, divest, and sanction. I myself have been through tremendous trials for both for supporting Palestine and for working for a pro-Zionist leaning public figure. So I've been canceled for both sides of the issue, right? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm just like, you know what? I'm Native. Like, we have our own struggles to deal with. But I say that because I don't want to skip over that the gravity of this time. We are witnessing a criminal seizure of constitutional order. We've said this on our podcast and on this show numerous times. The point of the show is to outline how a regime is attempting to overthrow that constitutional order and the decorum that those of us who paid attention to politics and socioeconomic struggles in our country have witnessed a definite downslide of decorum that was observed in politics in the forced binary of red and blue, liberal, conservative, blah blah blah. There used to be this decorum, and it's exhibited by when John McCain, R.I.P. Senator John McCain, a war hero and also a controverted figure in Indian country. He said some pretty nasty things, but put that aside. McCain is running against Barack Obama for the presidency in 2008 and 9. And this was before the Tea Party. This was before Sarah Palin, before Kristi Noem, before Turning Point USA. You just take a look at that radical racist fringe trajectory that one side of the forced political binary took. Obviously, that's not an accident. But John McCain is debating Barack Obama, or he's doing a town hall. And one of his supporters, John McCain's, who was running as a red guy, a red team Republican, again, pre-Tea Party Republican, pre-Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, all this crazy, tyrannical, fascist stuff that's right in front of us today. Okay, this is before that, when there was decorum, and there was somebody in McCain's crowd who says, I don't trust Barack Hussein Obama. I don't trust Obama. He's not an American. I believe he's a Muslim. I believe she said he's a Muslim. He's not an American. And McCain cuts her off and said, no, I'm sorry, but Senator Obama is a good man. He's an upright American. You know, whatever the exact verbiage that came out of McCain's mouth, that's decorum, right? That's decorum. And then the other instances when perhaps maybe Michelle Obama, right? Whatever, there's the campaigns are getting more vitriolic and more insidious and more venomous, right? As we go on, and there's a plan behind that. But this is happening, and people are goading each other into conflict. And Michelle Obama says something like, "They go low, we go high." Right? Let the pigs wallow in mud and get dirty, because if you fight with pigs, you're going to get dirty. But you can't play by the same rules of decorum, or even like civil disobedience doesn't work when the other side cheats. The opponent is corrupt. The opponent is engaged. Now, some people like to call our president, number 47, like maybe stupid or imbecilic or a dunce or all these terms, but he's actually brilliant. He's actually brilliant in sort of as a circus ring leader. Think of him as somebody, you ever see these videos on your phone where crows somehow get cats to fight, right? Crows will come in and peck a cat here. The cat thinks it's the other one doing it, and then now they're fighting. Trump is brilliant at a certain. I didn't know about this until I watched a video called. The concept is called Kayfabe, and it's since Trump entered the scene, and maybe even before that, you have a situation where reality TV is being mixed with politics. You have high WWF, or I don't think that exists anymore. WWE, professional wrestling. Everybody knows professional wrestling's fake, but it's like reality TV. It's scripted, and you have high drama characters, and this is what politics have become. That's why it gets more and more outlandish every time you tune in. It's some new thing, some new existential threat. against your routine and your peace of mind and your ability to just focus on the day, to focus on how you're going to pay your bills. How are you going to navigate capital in this system, right? So go back to what Hegseth and Trump are saying about the Pope. In now this regression, you might say, it's a regression from an observed civil and constitutional order and decorum that is now has become this kayfabe circus. And if you want to look up kayfabe, it's Kayfabe, and it's important to we do this show for the benefit of our listening audience at AM 950 and on the podcast. You can find that at Native American Patriot Talk, or just search Chase Iron Eyes, and you'll find everywhere I've appeared, and or search Native Roots Radio. This show is hosted on Native Roots Radio, and I want to thank Native Roots Radio for setting all this up. But I want to read you a quote from the Pope, because it exemplifies this kayfabe phenomenon, where, and we have this in our culture too, where the human condition, the state of the human condition is it's where the propensity for us to engage in gossip and juicy, sensationalized anything is far greater than our propensity to engage in critical thought, or a critical, analytical, objective, curious, philosophical introspections, or fact gaining and narrative gaining processes. It's much easier just to watch the Jerry Springer type or Maury type Days of Our Lives, just what is now is AI slop. But I grew up in the 80s and in the 90s, so it's much easier to watch that kind of stuff than it is to read a book, or to fast and to do a guided meditation, or to engage in spiritually disciplined conduct. But the Pope says this about the President of the United States, and probably Netanyahu too. He says, speaking about Iran and what Trump is doing, to splice together movie cuts with actual bombing and targeting of people for the purposes of entertainment is sickening. This is not who we are as Christians, says, okay, this is not the Pope, Cardinal Blaise Cupic of Chicago, criticizing what he calls the White House's gamification of the war on social media. But it involves the Pope, it involves the Vatican, it involves every single person who either considers themselves Christian, or who is seeking a Yeshua or Christ consciousness that predates Constantine, that predates the dogmatic and hierarchical imposition of Christian thought, philosophy, principles, that which is passed on through an imposed dogma. There are people out there who are cognizant of the fact that the church stole Jesus's legacy. Yeshua, the real Jesus, stole that legacy and is actually in the process of inhibiting free, liberated thought and the seeking of, when human beings are seeking a divine relationship with the sacred universe. This is what it means to be Lakota, or Anishinaabe, or Ho-Chunk, or Dene, or Haudenosaunee. If you look at all of what we call ourselves as Native Americans, we're called Native Americans in the lexicon of today, right? That's a term of art, Native American. I use the term Native American Patriot to sort of create an access point for American people or English thinking people who are hearing what I'm saying and are thinking to themselves, hey, I kind of agree with this guy. Or who are thinking, what, I've never heard this take on Native American thought and philosophy and how tribal sovereignty intersects and is interdependent with the United States Constitution. I've never heard that before. So welcome to Native American Patriot Talk. This is episode number 5. Again, shout out to our host. But let me jump back to Kayfabe, because we cannot downplay what is happening. Every time Trump makes these, there's serious threat. I know people, when Trump says an entire civilization will die tonight. An entire civilization will be gone forever, meaning wiped from the face of the earth. And we know what those threats mean. We know the artillery of the United States and of Israel and of North Korea and China and Russia. And every time he says, if you don't open this straight, Trump says, if you don't open this straight, you'll be living in hell. Just wait and see. Praise Allah, right? When Trump is saying these things, it's evident that he's mastered the politics of kayfabe. Now, kayfabe is what has happened between the former observed decorum of constitutional order and just maybe basic human respect, and how that's now morphed into or merged with this pro wrestling kayfabe made for television, pre-staged events, television theatrics, creating a villain hero persona or sharing AI generated memes of Trump as Jesus Christ, that prioritizes spectacle and short attention span, emotional engagement, dog whistles, things that focus on audience branding and activity over traditional norms. And you've seen this in Trump's rallies. Remember when he was saying, isn't this more fun? Isn't this more fun than a boring old political rally that I have my supporters committing physical assaults on Black people in my rallies? If this was the good old days, they'd be carrying this man out on a stretcher. Do you remember when he said things like this? This is what, it's a slow process. It's dehumanization. It's appealing to our baser natures and our propensity to prefer to consume slop. It's human nature. And how smart is the human population? What are the levels of intelligence and the levels of education and information seeking, fact checking of the American political population? Who knows really what those are? But anecdotally, I remember reading that Trump is speaking to 4th grade level folks. And never underestimate the power of, I don't know if it's appropriate to say stupid people. Let's just say ill-informed and misled people. Never underestimate the power of those people in large numbers. They thought they had large numbers, but they don't have large numbers. That's why I consistently label them truthfully as a radical, racist fringe. Their time is already done, but they have a highly effective cult of personality running the circus. And that's why Trump is using oversimplified, high drama narratives, creating heroes and villains to engage supporters psychologically and emotionally, getting people involved, calling people, what is it? Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary, Lion somebody, Ted. Just a caricaturization, an oversimplification of complex political issues, because nobody gives a rat about our lives, our political lives and civic engagement. We've gone asleep. America, we are asleep at the wheel. And we never contemplated that there would be a masterful president who could wield the insecurities, who could exploit the fears, the internalized imbalances and lack of respect for other human beings because they're phenotypically different, or they identify as white or black or native or whatever. Like it's obvious that other countries are interested in dividing the United States of America based on those differences and insecurities. And when you have a president that comes on and is saying things like, that's fake news. There used to be a day that we watched the news, and the news, at least in my perspective, was trying to engage in the truth, engage in truth telling, and to be fair and balanced, right? To report on both sides. We used to at least pretend that was what we were doing, but now that's out the window. Now you have everybody talking about fake news. That's why you should go to independent media. You should stay locked in to AM 950, because the progressives will win. The progressives will win. And we don't have to dogmatize. We don't have to oversimplify and engage in kayfabe to get people who are already leaning towards basic human respect, respecting people, whether or not their race, religion, or creed, or color, or gender, or whatever. Who cares about any of that? We should respect those differences, and we should be strong in our values. We should focus on the elite Epstein class, the ruling class, which is criminally oppressing the working class of the world and denying to us health care, denying to us, I'm drowning in student loan debt, literally drowning, making us pay for health, vision, dental, separately. How are those separate things? Why is our tax dollar going to endless wars? If you don't wake up, if you haven't woken up and recognized that each of these politicians lie to us, that's why I say progressives will win, because we're already above the fray. We're already looking at things from a 10,000 view level. We recognize the force binary dynamic of those perceived different classes engaged in battle with each other. Americans are losing because of that. So we're going to take a break. Again, AM 950, Native Roots Radio, Native American Patriot Talk. Find us here. We'll see you in a minute. If you want to learn more, if you want to dig in and support the good fight, we not only urge you to support Native Roots Radio and 950 AM Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota, but please, you are invited to become a member of Lakota People's Law Project. This is an initiative of the Sacred Defense Fund, all Native led, all Native board organization, a vehicle to assert and defend those truths that we hold to be self-evident and those inalienable rights, all conceivable tribal and American constitutional sovereign rights. We are in the fight for the long haul. Sometimes we've had to get in good trouble. To join the fight in solidarity, go to action.lockwiththelaw.org, subscribe to our lists, and gain membership.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
All right, Madakiapi. Kola iuha chante washte nape chiyus papelo. That means I greet you all as friends and I offer you a handshake from the heart. Ani buju, greetings in Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe Moin, and I think Cree. I know greetings in tons of different languages. But let me get back to the lecture at hand, because I thought I was going to be able to finish what this Kayfabe concept, where you've witnessed the devolution or the regression or the obliteration of respect politics that doesn't exist anymore. So does it behoove progressives to try to play by the rules when the snakes that are in control don't care about the rules? They do not care about the rules. They're engaged in reality TV, but it's costing real American lives. All you got to do is look at how Pete Hegseth does any kind of media event. He's like a schoolboy. He's like a schoolboy getting ready to play the lead in a high school drama play, right? Just look at how he conducts himself. Look at how he speaks of American lives, American people who are giving the ultimate sacrifice for the shenanigans of corrupt leaders, people who do not care about the American working class, in fact, who are exploiting the American working class. And it's unacceptable. But they got the pulpit right now. They got the pulpit right now, and these cult of personalities that they're sometimes successfully building, that they're engaged in, all of the rhetoric, the communication, why isn't Trump holding rallies anymore? Is because nobody supports what Trump and Hegseth are doing. They pissed a lot of American people off when they threatened the Pope. I see a lot of chatter online calling out to keep your hands off the Pope. You got Native people standing with the Pope, standing with Pope Leo, including me. But Kayfabe, look it up, using raw emotion, personalization, dramatic TV-like reveals to build a direct emotional bond with supporters. Look at the DoorDash lady. They concocted this media event where DoorDash, was one of the largest donors to Trump's inauguration party. And they had this woman show up delivering McDonald's cheeseburgers to Trump at the White House in a DoorDash t-shirt. It says DoorDash Grandma. And I know that all of you feel the same way I do. Whenever you see our elders who've paid into Social Security their whole lives, thinking that they had an America that cared about them, thinking that they had a progressive safety net that they contributed to their whole lives, just to find out they got to keep working. Our elders deserve to retire. They deserve to sit in their rocking chairs and drink sweet tea and hold their babies and raise dogs and cats. They deserve that. They worked their whole lives for that, but they got to go work at Walmart. They got to go be a greeter or a receipt checker, or they got to be a DoorDash grandma. So this is the spectacle driven reality TV simplification of complex issues, pro wrestling style narratives that are reaching out and trying to engage the non-aware, the lumpen, emotionally, and making it easier to consume, complex issues, oversimplifying complex issues to create this we against them mentality. Trump derangement syndrome. What the hell is that? I don't really care about Trump that much, but what I do care about is tyranny and fascism. Not on its way, not contemplated, not this far off threat. Our lives right now we're in the throes of a civil war. It's already been declared. When you have an illegal, racist, radical fringe criminally seizing constitutional order, executing and killing Americans in the street on camera, and then you have the regime's leaders coming out on national TV calling Alex Preddy, Renee Nicole Good domestic terrorists. That is tyranny. That is unlawful killing that's criminal seizure. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's what killing of human beings is called. It's a criminal seizure according to the Constitution. It's a violation of due process to capture people and illegally profile them and deport them to CCOT, to these violent, gang-ridden prisons in wherever that prison's at. Who did Trump have somebody in the White House? El Salvador. The Sudan, right? We're sending American people, or even people who are classified as immigrants, who also still continue to have due process rights, constitutional rights in our country. But because their team is brilliant, we shouldn't call them stupid, call them incapable. And even if there were the blue guys in there, we should still be as critical. That's why progressives will win. Progressives will win because we don't need to dogmatize. We don't need to oversimplify complex issues and create dog whistles. But we have to toughen up. We have to tighten up. Whether or not is your DNC sponsored political vehicle progressive? Is it? Is it really progressive? Or is it is it like what I went through in 2016 when Bernie Sanders was running? And he's running against Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I'm the endorsed candidate of the state of North Dakota for it's called the Democratic Nonpartisan League. In Minnesota, it's called the DFL. And what's crazy is if you look back, they are very socialistic leaning party organization that predates this, whatever the DNC is. I don't need to cast shade on anything. I am a hypercritical individual. I like to think of myself as a critical thinker. I don't need to propagandize anyone. You should look at your own lives. Look at your own lives and say, can I afford healthcare? Can I afford vision, dental? Am I drowning in student debt? Can I afford my mortgage? Can I even get a mortgage in the first place? Do I have opportunity, or do I have to send my kids to the military because they can't afford college? They don't see any way out of forced dependency and poverty culture. I grew up steeped in that. In fact, I can't escape it. I've been trying my whole life to get out the trench. Look at your own lives. And you listen to me. I'm passionate about what I say because I've thought about these things. I like to think of it in a deep manner. I like to think that I want to think critically as opposed to judge. That includes judging those who disagree with me. Those who, when I post on my social media, they come on and say, oh, you have TDS. We support MAGA victory or whatever. Like, just this dynamic that some people are not able to graduate from that dynamic. But back to this cult of personality, this reality TV driven spectacle that politics has become, which also includes fake assassination attempts, creating this emotional bond with average Americans who don't have the time, they don't have the luxury of philosophizing about American political issues or political identities or anything. They're literally worried about how are they going to provide their next meal. They're literally one flat tire, one car repair, one emergency financial situation away from being homeless. We're much closer to being homeless than we'll ever be to the 100 millionaires on up, like the ruling class. We're much closer to each other as relatives in that fashion. And I want to send a word out to all the houseless relatives, the folks who were cleared out from Cedar and Franklin. I just saw that they were cleared out. I was watching Mercado Media. Pay attention to your independent media. Look up Andrew Mercado Media 1 on Instagram. Follow independent media. Follow AM 950. Follow Native Roots Radio. Follow Chase Iron Eyes or Lakota Law. Like, we're trying to be truthful. We respect the truth, and we have ethics, and we recognize that we don't have to. Yes, there's a spectacle and there's a dynamic that pits people against each other based on their differences, but take a 10,000-foot view and look at, was that assassination attempt on Trump real? What was that really real? Like, review it. Look at everything that's out there on it. The one that happened near Mar-a-Lago, I don't know. I stopped believing that those were real the moment that they happened. They look fake. And then you have people like Kristi Noem, Bovino, telling us not to believe our eyes, telling us that Renee Nicole Good threatened whoever her killer is, telling us that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist. Now look at what happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination. You have the sheriff of whatever that county is in Utah, when Charlie Kirk was on a campus there, saying that the story that the feds are telling us, Kash Patel and otherwise, the story the feds are telling us is not accurate. It can't be accurate. There's no way Charlie Kirk died from the gun, after the ballistic analysis and so forth. There's no way their story matches up. There's no way this guy executed that shot from that gun. The bullets don't match up, is what I'm trying to say. And then there's the further incredulous things about, can the guy pull that shot off? Can he get down from 2 stories change clothes, dismantle his gun. First of all, does he know how to put it together to pull the assassination off? Did he write this condemning letter saying, hey, I, Mr. or Mrs. Trans, am committing this political assassination for all the reasons that fit the Tea Party or the MAGA story narrative? You know what I mean? Is that believable? No. But our attention spans are so short that we don't care what happened 15 minutes ago. We don't care what happened yesterday, the week before. Like, everything is topsy-turvy. It's bizarro world. So find a way to center yourself. Find a way to quiet all of the noise, the white noise that is politics, that is the constant threats, the constant emotional manipulation, the constant manipulation of the market that is happening by this regime. Blatant manipulation of the market, blatant threats of bombing and obliterating entire civilizations, the commission of war crimes, the threatening of pontifex, of the Pope, completely outlandish behavior by the United States of America, by our country, by our government. And what is Congress doing? I don't know, but they should be empowered to do a lot more than to sit back and watch and hold press conferences, which are helpful, which at least indicate where somebody stands. It's the same thing as a podcast. You know where we stand. You know where progressives stand by listening to AM 950, by listening to Native American Patriot Talk. You're going to find out where tribal sovereignty connects with and is interdependent on American constitutional sovereignty. Our destinies are inextricably intertwined. But let me spend some time on what's happening in Minnesota, because our attention spans aren't, I even on my own Instagram, people watch my videos for 15 seconds. And my videos are maybe a minute and a half, 2 minute long. I intentionally make them short, but I love the long form. That's why you find me here podcasting. But according to my analytics, people listen for 15 seconds. So take that knowledge. That's why Trump is winning. Politics is no longer boring with this crazy, deranged, unfit character in the driver's seat. It's like cortisol, adrenaline being released every time he makes these threats. I know people who adjust their lives, their personal lives, saying goodbye to their children, saying goodbye to their children when Trump is threatening nuclear annihilation. We're not going to be exempt from this deranged person's actions. But take a look at what's happening in Minneapolis, because I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, whatever the dates are these days. They're all blurring together. But just a couple days ago, outside of the Whipple Detention Center, there was somebody there from Charlie Kirk's organization. RIP to Charlie Kirk. Whoever assassinated him has far more capabilities than the American public is aware of, and that I don't believe the mainstream any longer. Not that I ever did, but like I said before, at least there was decorum observed before. But Turning Point USA is kind of like the propaganda machine for MAGA, you might say. Maybe more than that. Maybe it's Israeli controlled, or anyway. There was a person who came to the Whipple Detention Center, and her name is Savannah Hernandez, and she was a reporter. She is a reporter for Turning Point USA, and she shows up at the Whipple Detention Center. And if you look at the videos, go look at, again, Mercado Media is my source for this. But you go look at the media, and you'll see a young woman blowing a whistle in this Turning Point USA's face, this reporter. And these are the actions of what's called an agent provocateur. Whoever this Savannah Hernandez is appears to be there to instigate content moments, instigate drama, reality TV, made for TV, dramatic occurrences. People watch things online because there's blood and violence, or there's something that appeals to the baser nature of human beings. And there's a woman blowing a whistle in the reporter's face, and the reporter, some would say that's an unwelcome action with the woman blowing the whistle in the face. But then the reporter makes contact with that young woman, and it's all there were arrests made, because after that contact, Minnesota Angry Man, I think that was Minnesota Angry Man's daughter, and Chris Ostrushko. I don't want to get the name wrong, but brother Chris is he's in the middle of a fire. He's being subjected to a lot of criticism because he pushed this woman, this reporter, this Turning Point USA reporter, because he's protecting his daughter. And it's a very impassioned moment. In the law, these are called moments of passion, where you lose your normal judgment processes and your normal functions of judging consequences and so forth. And I do the same thing. I did the same thing with my daughter. You protect your children by any and all means. So despite all the criticism that is being levied at Chris, you know what? I believe that this Turning Point USA person is an agent provocateur for the Nazi class. Am I going to catch criticism for that? Who cares? Tyranny and fascism are facing us, everybody who's listening, every single day. We should be completely on point about that. And yes, if Chris could take that back, I'm sure he would. But I want to draw your attention to it because he's going through a lot, and he's facing the court process, as are others. There's another father who I'm blanking on his name, but he went through the court process yesterday. His name is Lorenzo. Again, shout out to Mercado Media. His name is Lorenzo. I watched the videos. Lorenzo's daughter she was put in a guillotine or a rear naked choke, an MMA hold. There's somebody from Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. Somebody from Hennepin County Sheriff's Office is putting this young woman in a chokehold. And I mean, our police, Minnesota's police, have killed people, black and brown people, probably others, but this happens to be a brown woman. And her father, Lorenzo, appears to be Raza or Hispanic, Chicano, whatever, a U.S. Marine, sees his daughter being the subject of deadly force being applied to her, intervenes and just puts his body over her body to protect his daughter. And I don't know why. These aren't even ICE agents doing this to us anymore. These are Hennepin County. I don't know if Minneapolis Police Department was on site. I don't know any of that. I wasn't there. But go check out Mercado Media to find out the story. Anyway, Lorenzo went to court, and our good friend, shout out to Trisha Poland and James Cook, BNCL Law, as you are aware from a previous episode, were engaged in a class action lawsuit. But Trisha showed up for Lorenzo, and they hadn't charged him. Trisha also got the Red Witch, a woman, a person who's known as the Red Witch, who was charged unjustly by, it's not even Pam Bondi anymore. Look how Trump sets these women up for failure just to make them the fall person. Like, we could do a whole story on that. Kristi Noem, gone. Pam Bondi, gone. Leave it, the press secretary. I don't know if she's gone yet or what, but she's going to be gone. Every woman, Tulsi Gabbard, completely, hobbled, just hobbled. But lastly, I want to call attention to is it Ramsey County, St. Paul, because they are, despite some of the brutalities they instigated against protesters, they are also pursuing and investigating the Hmong American man. His name is Chong Lee Scott Dow. Remember, he was disturbed. They busted down his door. They ransacked his house. They drugged this American citizen in his underwear into the freezing cold. They kidnapped him, and now St. Paul, Ramsey County, is investigating that as a kidnapping. So shout out to them. Every single person who's been illegally trafficked by ICE, because that's what this is about. Who are the shareholders and who is benefiting from ICE's, declaration of war on American citizens and those who are here providing an economic net benefit that we call immigrants or whatever. So shout out to that process. I'm not taking my eyes off of what's happening right in our backyard in Minnesota. I'm not taking my eyes off what's happening in the United States of America and the world. So tune in here to AM 950, Native Roots Radio, Native American Patriot Talk. Find us wherever you podcast. Progressives will win. Lila Wopi Latanka, Ichichapelo Medakuye Oyas.